Hey there, welcome to Grind and Flow, creative minds worth your time. I'm host Chuck Moore with a guest who definitely brings worthwhile experiences and insight to the table. Today, we're spending a quantity of quality minutes with author Sally Kilpatrick. She's a USA Today best-selling author as well as Georgia Author of the Year. Sally has received notable accolades in the romance and women's fiction world, like the Maggie Award of Excellence and the Nancy Knight Mentorship Award. Her latest novel, Nobody's Perfect, is Sally's seventh and doing quite well on Amazon. Nobody's Perfect is about a wife and mother who gets blindsided by divorce and sudden social media fame. And while the story has a bit of romance, the key relationship isn't what you think it might be. Sally gives us the scoop on the book's inspiration. Our conversation covered very useful themes like unpacking feedback and finding the right feedback partners. We've all got opinions, right? But which ones are actually helpful to the project or goal at hand? And as receivers of feedback, how can we filter notes, good or bad, to extract what's productive? There's also helpful stuff about overcoming the fear of finishing, maintaining a sense of play in your work, and striking a balance between craft and art and business. You know, the grind and flow. Also, Sally, a working mom and former teacher, clues us in on how she stays organized and keeps so many plates a-spinning. So let's get to it. Here's author Sally Kilpatrick. My first question, I throw it out there. Imagine that I'm 8.
Okay.
Who are you and what do you do?
If I am 8.
If I'm 8.
If you're
I'm an 8-year-old. You
you're
just
an
met me,
8-year-old.
and I'm asking you, who are you and what do you do?
I'm a writer.
What does that mean?
I make up stories for a living.
What's cool about it? What do you like about it?
Well, it's a use of the imagination. It's a job where you're always being surprised because your characters do things that surprise you. I get to wear my pajamas and consume copious amounts of caffeine.
Wonderful. What's hard about what you do?
There is no roadmap for it. There's no one telling you exactly what to do. There's no time to clock in or to clock out. So you've got to be a self-starter. You got to make things happen. And sometimes your imaginary friends don't talk to you. And so then you have to do lots of pacing, maybe go for a walk, make nice, see if they'll talk to you again.
You've always got friends.
You got friends, yes.
Before there was even a hint of a business, what kept you going?
I would say one of the greatest blessings is that I started writing books when I was young and stupid. Mm-hmm. So we were doing it for fun. My best friend and I, we had a round robin back in 7th grade, mm-hmm. and she and I were the ones that were like, yes, this is awesome, this is fun. And the other kids are like, oh my God, I hate this, don't make me write. And from there, we created our own little soap opera.
A round robin in terms of writing. What does that mean?
That means that I would start the story, I would pass it to you, you would write the next part, you pass it back to me, or you pass it on to someone else. So each person's writing a part of it. I actually did a kind of novella like that with some other writers once, and it's a lot of fun, just picking up the characters and moving them around. Mm-hmm. And Jeanette and I would put our characters in horrible situations and then hand it back.
There you go, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, right? So it was fun. What kind of calamity can I envision for these characters before I hand it back to this person to say, your turn. You see what you can do with this. Which is a great writing exercise. We didn't know it. We were just having fun. From there, we started writing entire novels.
Wow. At what age?
I think I finished my first one at 14 or 15.
Oh my.
So longhand.
Right.
Because I never took typing. That might have been useful, but I never took typing. Longhand, let's say 300 notebook pages, 300 or 150 pages both sides, So that's pretty good.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And we would read our stories to each other as a form of entertainment, but it was also an introduction to critique partners. I didn't know that. We were just doing it for fun, right?
Right.
And now that once I actually joined a writer's group, what I discovered is that a lot of folks, their biggest barrier is finishing what they start. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I was in high school. The thought never occurred to me to be afraid of writing a story or finishing a story, because I was only writing it for myself and for Jeanette, right? That is probably one of the greatest gifts I gave myself, is writing for fun and writing without any kind of critical eye. I probably finished 10 or more stories like that, just longhand, various styles, various time periods.
So it was as it should be. It was play.
Play, absolutely. Is absolutely play. And I think we were talking about this before we started recording, but sometimes when I get stuck, I'll go back to that time. And the way that I go back to that time is a Dr. Pepper and the Last of the Mohicans soundtrack. Because that is what we would sit there and listen to movie soundtracks, and she would drink a Coke and I would drink a Dr. Pepper, and that's how we got it going.
So let's revisit that. What is some advice for other people doing writing or anything else when you get stuck? I really love that about evoking that emotion of when you were doing it for play.
Yes.
How do you regain that mojo, that sense of play?
You go back to a time when it worked. Go back to a time when it felt fun. Go back to a time when the words flowed. And I personally, it's a Dr. Pepper and the Last of the Mohicans soundtrack. Mm-hmm. I have taken classes with other writers where they say it might be you have a favorite candle, so you light a vanilla candle. And that kind of sets the stage, and it kind of says to your mind, all right, we're going to write now, and it's going to be fun. But any kind of music, any kind of specific beverage, sometimes it's a place. And sometimes it's not the familiar, it's the unfamiliar. So if I get stuck, I might just pick up my bag and go find a cafe somewhere and try that out for a place to write. Right.
I heard you talking about walks earlier. Mm-hmm. That's the way I problem solve walking.
Yes, and I have, sometimes I'll go for a walk. One of my author friends, Jenny McQuiston, talks about taking a shower. And it's pretty funny because sometimes when you're taking a shower, the ideas will start popping up. I read another book that said, and I've done this before, I don't know that I have seen it work per se. I think it may have worked and I just didn't see it working. Mm-hmm. But before you go to bed, if you ask your subconscious to help you fix the problem. So like you're going to bed and you're like, okay, brain, I know you're going to be working tonight while I'm asleep.
Right.
If you could please help me figure out how to fix the scene in which XYZ happens, then sometimes your brain will work while you're asleep and the idea will come to you. I think it's a Kelly Stone book.
Okay. Have there been any key mentors in your writing journey?
I was just doing a presentation for Georgia romance writers, and I referenced like 3 or 4. And I really think part of it is that just about any author has something that they can teach you. And I know that my critique partner, Tanya Michaels, was there with me as I was getting geared up. She was one of the first people to read the Happy Hour Choir. She gave me invaluable advice on Bless Her Heart. So she was really, really helpful there. She really gets me, and that's an important part of a critique partner.
Right.
You want somebody who gets you like that. I remember, one of the best pieces of advice that I got was actually from Haywood Smith. I was talking about this on Saturday. She said, before you even start writing the book, and I think this is what separates maybe Georgia romance writers from some other groups, because what I'm going to give you is creative, but yet also think ahead to the marketing aspect of it. So the advice is always very pragmatic. In this case, before you start writing, what is your title? What is your first line? Can you tell the story in 1 sentence? And I resisted that for a good long while. But the longer I've written, the more I've realized if you can't distill the story down into 1 sentence, you're going to have a hard time marketing it. Right. In your editor is going to have a hard time selling it, like the acquiring editor who wants the story when they take it to the meetings.
Right.
You need to be able to distill it down in that way. And similarly, you're saving yourself a lot of trouble. So whenever I start a book, I'll look for other books that have the title that I want to use. Because if you've got 12 different books already out there called Giving Up the Ghost, for example, they're going to make you change the title, Ask Me How I Know. You learn these things. Right. And another thing, I don't remember if it's Haywood or said it, or if this is just like kind of a common knowledge kind of thing, your first line sells that book.
Okay.
Your last line sells the next one.
Ooh, I love the rhythm of that. The songwriter in me.
Yeah, the first line sells the book, the last line sells the next one. And that is like one of my, for somebody who is not in the least agile, it's one of my gymnastics references that I like. I'm looking for, did you stick the landing? Whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, did you stick the landing? Did you bring all those different threads together in the end to make a beautiful tapestry? Did you end on a zinger, as we used to say in English class when we were working on essays?
Wow. And that early on in my writing journey, there was a bit of advice, and I put it up by my desk, was ideas are cheap, execution is everything. And I forget who said that.
I don't know, but yeah, that is accurate, because a lot of times you'll read a book or you'll watch a movie, or maybe you're looking at your own work and you're like, I know the idea is good, but getting it on paper correctly is a whole different ballgame.
So we were talking about outlining, elevator pitch, really important.
Yes, to be able to distill it down. And in addition to like the logistics of marketing, it's really interesting because I finished this book called Living Revision. Author's last name is Andrew. And she talked about your theme and distilling your theme down to one sentence and keeping that handy so you can look at it while you're writing. Of course, that's completely different. And she writes more literary based on that book, and commercial is a whole different beast because you have a deadline for commercial. It's not like when I was in the MAPW and you had literary stuff and you would sit there and tinker with it and tweak it for 5 or 6 years. If you want a career in commercial fiction, a book a year is slow for some folks.
Right.
So I always look for the theme after I finish the book, and then in revision, amplify.
Okay.
But it does help if you know where you're going, if you have the broadest of strokes.
Devil's advocate, you've talked about letting the character surprise you, but doesn't that hem you in? Doesn't that straitjacket you if you've got everything too planned out?
No, I don't think so, because when I started writing, I was definitely what they called a pantser. Just write by the seat of your pants, see what happens. And that approach didn't work for me personally. Some people still do that. So then I started outlining, which I don't know why I didn't think to outline in the first place, because that's how I do all of my essays.
Okay.
As an English major, I would outline them to within an inch of their lives. Okay. And by the time I finished that process, then the actual writing of the essay was quick. I already had all the ideas ready to go. I tried that with my fiction, and I find that I'm more hybrid. Like, you can never be all one thing or the other. It's wise to take both sides to that approach. So I do an outline, and then I typically write about 30,000 words. Realize I took a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
Looney Tunes?
Like the Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Right.
Toss that 30,000, start over again with what I've learned about the characters. And when I say start over, then I mean I go back and redo the outline. But even with an outline, my characters still have room to surprise me.
Right.
So they'll still do things that I don't expect.
Sounds like you've got a lot of love for the process. And I have a theory, maybe that's how some creative people, whether they're authors or musicians, quote unquote, lose it. They lose their love for the process and all the dead ends that you go down. Those 30,000 words that you throw away, that's necessary.
I think for a lot of writers, if you cling to those 30,000 words, like this, I have written this and I absolutely cannot throw it away. Those are the darlings you need to kill.
Kill your darlings, yep.
Yeah. I like drafting more than revision. I'm trying to learn to like revision.
Okay.
I'm trying. I think that it goes with the perfectionist streak is that when you get to the revision stage, then it's just a list of things that are wrong. Right. And there's a part of me that's like, no, I don't want to be wrong. And so I'm learning to do that part of the process as well as the drafting. I'm trying to think, because I think a lot of people love the revision process, and they would sit there and tinker and toy and tighten and
but that's okay,
cut
right?
And paste until the cows come home, and then they don't ever submit their books. Right. And I think there's a happy medium. Right. Like I can't just draft. I'm going to have to revise. Right. And you can't just revise. At some point, you're going to have to turn it in. And at this point, I'm working on my 8th book. At this point, now it's just, there's no anger or anything. It's just like, all right, toss it. Here we go. This is just part of the process. Lean in. Don't try to make yourself more efficient than you are. Just roll with it. When you figure out what your process is, just roll with it.
I'm sure it was a long evolution, but how long did it take you to find the crux of your process and be comfortable with that?
Wow. Okay. Well, so the Happy Hour Choir came out in 2015. I started writing it, I think, in 2009 or 2010. So this is how long it took me to get a publisher. And then how long it took for the publisher to do the edits and all of this good stuff. I don't think I came around to the recognition of process until probably Bless Her Heart, which was my fourth published novel. So we're talking a solid...
That's a lot of miles down the road.
Yeah. Before I decided, you know what, let's just do it.
Was there a light bulb moment like, oh, okay, I'm comfortable, I know what I'm doing now?
Oh, I don't think you're ever completely confident about what you're doing. We have a joke, several author friends of mine, you go through, you finish the book, and by the time you're done with it, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even like this book anymore. Sometimes it'll come back around in a couple of years and I'll be like, oh, actually, that was pretty good. But you go through the process, you do the drafting, you do the revision, then you do the copy edits, and then you do the page proofs, and then you're starting another book and they want you to promote the first book. And you get to a point where you completely lose your train of thought. You get to the point where you're starting the next book and you're like, I've forgotten how to write a book again.
You're rediscovering.
Yes, and that's all of us. I have the least amount of books written in that group, but everyone, you have somebody who writes categories and maybe they're working on their 30th book and they're like, I've forgotten how to write a book. Or you can have somebody who's written 7 women's fiction. I've forgotten how to write a book. So there's always this moment when you go from the one that you were working on to the next one where you're thinking, all right, how are we going to do this?
But again, it seems like you understand that those emotions are all part of the process.
Oh, yeah. You roll with it. It's like my therapist said, you need to learn to body surf with the waves that life throws at you. Body surf with the waves of your process.
That is brilliant. We'll be back with Sally Kilpatrick in a moment. If you like what you're hearing, please tell a friend about Grind and Flow, creative minds worth your time. Each episode is your own private TED Talk with someone of note, including musicians, authors, comedians, entrepreneurs, and leaders in arts and culture. My guests generously share compelling origin stories, their process, how they navigate challenges, and always with some takeaway that might be useful in your own journey. Follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on Instagram at Grind and Flow Official. And now, back to Sally Kilpatrick. So do you teach workshops? How often do you do that?
I've been doing several online workshops, and I generally do anywhere from 1 to 4 of those a year. Before COVID, I would say I was doing in-person workshops, like at least 3 a year, and that's just now kind of ramping up.
Do you love that or just kind of...
I love that.
Why?
That gets back to the part of teaching that I liked. There were lots of parts of teaching that I didn't like, mainly grading papers and having to call parents and having to sit through faculty meetings and things like that, disciplinary problems, although, typically didn't have that many of those. But so far as actually teaching people, especially, I think it's the part that's being helpful. I think some people get into teaching because they like to feel important. I always wanted to see that light bulb go off above somebody's head to say something important. And that's the part I like about as a writer. If I can give you some piece of information that will help make it easier for you.
What are some common roadblocks you see with some of your students that gets in the way of them being a writer, whether either professionally or just for fun?
I think the biggest roadblock I've seen over the years is the fear of finishing. It's a fear of rejection, very, very human, very common. If you write a book, you're putting yourself out there. any type of art, whatever any type of art, you're putting yourself out there, putting a piece of yourself out there. So as much as you can tell yourself any criticism that's toward the book is toward the book, it's not towards me. Well, who wrote the book? I wrote the book. So it's very easy to internalize that. And I think that lots of folks, even if they don't realize it, they're afraid to finish it. To which I would say, pretend like you're not going to sell it. Pretend like it's going straight under the bed. Just, and then finish it. The other thing I see is when you get criticism, critiques really, so far as the work itself, a digging in of the heels and the not wanting to make changes. And yeah, sometimes you're right. Sometimes criticism is not something you should follow, but it's still going to teach you something. I remember before Happy Hour was published, and I was so excited because the editor had given notes. I had put it in a contest, and the editor who judged the contest had given each person notes, which is not common at all. Most editors do not have time for that, or do not have the inclination for it. And the notes on Happy Hour that I was so excited to get, I find out that it was like her least favorite of the 5. And she said, "Your tone is too light and humorous for such serious subject matter." And a light bulb went off for me. And I said, but that is my lane. That is my voice.
Right.
So in this case, that was not criticism to follow. That was criticism that helped me figure out what direction I wanted to go. So there's always something there. And even when you're working within a manuscript, an editor can suggest something and your knee-jerk reaction is absolutely not. And 9 times out of 10, there's a compromise position. Because something about that comment indicates that it took the editor out of the story, which means it's going to take the reader out of the story. Which means you should take it seriously. Either get over yourself and make the change, or if it's really important to you, then you find a compromise position and say, how about this instead?
You bring up an interesting point, because I find it can be a challenge to find the right kind of reader, because all feedback is a gift, but again, not everyone knows what they're talking about. I mean, so say for the students in your workshops, what can you tell them how to find that helpful reader?
Sadly, there are a lot of people, especially when I was doing contests, I never got this feedback, but I have had so many people come back and tell me that somebody had, on their contest entry, had said things like, "Don't quit your day job." That is garbage. That is not solid material. Just jettison that. Any kind of criticism you get that is hateful towards other people or hateful towards you. We're sadly living in a world where I know there was an entry where it was black characters who were wealthier than the white characters, and the judge had a problem with that. No, that's prejudice. And it's easy for me to say, toss that. A lot easier for me to say that, but that's the sort of criticism that has no merit whatsoever. Typically, when you found a good critique partner, they're going to point out what's good as well as what's bad, and you're going to find that more with a critique partner than an editor, because editors are busy, probably overworked, and their goal is to make whatever you're writing the best it can possibly be. So I think it's really easy to get lost in what to fix as opposed to taking the time to point out what you like.
That's a good point. And also, there was something I read recently of an author, can't remember who, basically said if people have specific ways to fix it, they're probably wrong, but they're right in that they're pointing out.
Yes, that's it, exactly. Something took them out of the story, so it's worth taking a moment and looking at it. And I know when I was younger, when I was a baby writer, I was like 40. When I was a baby writer, and I kind of would take offense to things in a way that I should not have. For example, I know a copy editor made a note about buttercups, and I think it was my second book, and said, "Buttercups are not something that a mother and daughter would plant. They are weeds."
Okay.
And my knee-jerk response was to leave it as buttercups. And I finally decided, no, I will change it to daffodils. Because where I'm from in West Tennessee, we call daffodils buttercups.
Okay. I love the specificity, the granular specificity
Right? Of this particular example.
How much time did you take thinking about that?
No. Too much. But yeah, I just finally changed it to daffodils because at the end of the day, do you want your work to be more accessible? Right. Is that a point where, is that a hill you want to die on so far as capturing the texture of the place? Right. Or is it something that's going to confuse people?
I was reading some of the reviews for your latest book, which I would love to talk about here in a second.
Sure.
On Amazon, and most of the reviews were glowing. Rightfully so. But there was one person that their main beef with the book was the alcohol consumption. I don't know if you recall that.
Always. Okay, so and then it's the same way. When I buy things, and I wonder sometimes if it's the writer within me that causes me, I always look at not just the 5-star reviews, but I go and look at the 1 and 2-star reviews. Because and that's probably good practice because you can vet it. You can say, all right, well, if this person gave it a 1-star review for this, I am going to like it. Right. It's like all of my romance friends who, if they get a 1-star review that says this book has too much sex in it, they just take a screenshot of that bad boy. That's how we're going to advertise this book. You know? But I mean, too much alcohol consumption. Right. That just tells me that struck a nerve over that particular person. She's not wrong. Right. There's a good deal of wine in that book, and it leads to some bad decisions. I would argue that that's also sometimes life. Right. Or one of my favorite 1 or 2-star reviews for that book was, cussing is not entertainment. And my response was, then you're not doing it right.
Fair enough, especially if you're from the South.
Exactly.
It's kind of an art form. Mm-hmm. So how do you steel yourself against that? Because you're basically putting yourself out there on a larger scale. Are you doom scrolling for the reviews?
Right now, I'm not even looking at the reviews. I was looking at the reviews when it first came out. Because, I mean, you can learn from the reviews. You're aiming for your particular readers, and that's the sweet spot you want to hit. I like to look at the 4-star reviews and some of the 3-star reviews, and that gives you a more nuanced picture of what the book got right and what the book may have gotten wrong, because no book is perfect.
Right. So it's human instinct to go for the really, really bad or the really, really good, but the middle ground is a good place to visit with your reviews.
The middle ground is where you will find any meaningful critique. Those are the folks who, the 4 stars and the 3 stars are the people who can tell you what you could possibly improve on in the future. Your 5 stars are your people. They're the people with whom you resonate. 4 stars to some extent. The 1 stars are the people who just are not your readers. Just you are not for them, and that is okay because there are plenty of other books out there. May they go find one and read one. But the 3 stars are the people that might tell you, well, you rushed the ending, or I didn't like this aspect of it, or any that you can take to heart.
So tell me about this book, and tell me about what it's about and about the wonderful success you've enjoyed.
Oh, well, this is my first book with Montlake, and it is actually my pandemic book. I had the idea before the pandemic for writing a book. It goes back to, again, my friend Jeanette, that my first critique partner, we would joke all the time about how, could somebody please just give us a gold star for doing laundry today? And I kind of rolled with that and thought about like badges and the Mom Scouts, and most stories start with a what if. So I have this character, Vivian Quackenbush, who has dedicated herself to being the perfect wife and mother. And she gives herself badges and she learns things, only to find out that her husband he blindsides her with divorce.
Wow.
So her world crumbles, and that forces her to reevaluate her relationship with her mother, and maybe the judgments that she's made on her mother in light of what's going on, because basically her whole life was trying to be the opposite of what her mother was.
And that was my favorite, just to interrupt here,
Yeah.
but that was my favorite character in the book, the mother.
Heidi ended up being my favorite character. Right. Heidi is her 5 times divorced mother, and who embraced much quicker than Vivian the idea that as mothers we're all doing the best we can.
Right.
We're just doing the best we can, and we're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay.
Was the mother character based on anyone in your life?
No, she is one of my characters that I think is just, well, Vivian too. They are just, they are who they are. They came to me like that as a series of what ifs. Absolutely not like my mother at all. The only part of the mother-daughter relationship in this book that is the same as my relationship with my mother is the two of them watching Jeopardy together. Because yes, that is, Mom and I are huge Jeopardy fans.
Tell us about, I love the character, the hot neighbor and her group of friends in the neighborhood.
Sure. So her hot neighbor is Parker, who is he's a widower, and his daughter is in middle school. He's brand new to the cul-de-sac. In fact, the first time he comes out to talk to them, it's because of this distress emergency. And Vivian lives next door to Abby and Rachel, and both of them are mothers. They've lived in the same cul-de-sac for 10 or 15 years. Their kids used to all play together, and they just sit there in their camp chairs and maybe sip wine while the kids are on their...
There's that drinking, all that drinking that goes on.
All that drinking on their Razor scooters. So, yeah, I also included in this book, I like to think a lot of times a book is like all these disparate things and you pull them together. It goes along with my discovery that Cheez-Its go with any and every wine.
Absolutely.
White, red, rosé, champagne, doesn't matter. Cheez-Its, wine. So this is what they do. They drink their fancy wine once a week and they eat their Cheez-Its and they get together and talk about their week. And back in the day it was to watch their kids, but now their kids are either out of the house or on their way out of the house. A major part of the book is the friendship with these 3 women. And as Vivian accidentally goes viral, she makes a drunken video. She talks about how her husband hated her chicken salad. And she's like, my chicken salad is amazing. And, this becomes viral. Yeah?
They're vibrant to you, like watching you, like summon that dialogue that's wonderful, like all the time you spent with it, yet you're still excited about it and excited about those characters.
Yeah, that's, and then from there, she gets an offer to do makeovers. She takes her friends along. She gets to go to wine country as part of, and in wine country, then she discovers that these sorts of influencer things they're not permanent in any way, shape, or form. As the sort of popularity shifts and changes and allegiances shift and change, the things you can count on are your friends, your mother. Right. She makes a lot of mistakes along the way and then apologizes for them. At one point, when I was pitching this book, I said it was actually kind of like a second chance romance, only the romance is the relationship between the mother and the daughter.
Yes.
So it's like a fractured relationship that comes back together.
I think that's what surprised me. That was like, it's where the book went where I didn't think it was going to go. Oh, okay, so this is the main.
Yep,
main
that's
arc.
what I kind of wanted. I kind of wanted to do with it was show a mother and a daughter, and the daughter realizing my mother did the best she could. I guess I think about, because I have lived my life between 2 worlds. So I have been the working mother and I've been the stay-at-home mother, sort of. Mm-hmm. And so then you see how harsh we are with women. Like, there's no winning. It's very much like the monologue in Barbie. Mm-hmm. There's no winning. If you work, then people say you're neglecting your kids. If you don't work, then you're not setting a good example for them. So I think that was part of it too. There was just a lot about moms, a lot about friendship, a lot about the things that we do. I think too, I've reached the stage of life where I had when I started writing this book, that more couples around us were getting divorced. And to see how a woman could put in so much work towards raising children, keeping the house clean, all of this stuff, and then be left with nothing because there's nothing on paper. Right. How hard it is to get a job because you have a gap in your resume. Right. So I think that definitely the book was also me working through some of those feelings and what that meant.
There's been a lot of success and accolades.
Yes.
Take a victory lap. What are some?
Yes, this is my most successful book to date. I think it topped out at number 6 overall in the Amazon store. So it's very exciting for me. I'm planning on, this will be the first time I think I make the same amount of money in a year than I made teaching. I'm actually projected to do a little more, which is a lot for an author. The average author plugs away at it and may make anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000 a year. That's the typical salary for an author. So to get to living wage is very exciting.
Congratulations, that's a huge deal.
Thank you.
What did you learn from this particular project, this process for this particular book?
Ooh, what did I learn from this book?
What did you discover about yourself, or about your craft?
I think that the thing that I learned about this book is that you can take the same sorts of ideas, the same sorts of tropes that you might use in another book and kind of turn them around, like relationship-wise. Like I was saying, I looked at it as a kind of second chance romance, only it's not a romance, it's the love between a mother and a daughter.
Were you writing to a specific genre, or did the story is how it is?
I was aiming towards, and it depends on what you want to call it these days, women's fiction, book club fiction. That's what I was aiming for. The editors did ask me to beef up the romance, which I tried to do. I'm always trying to write romance, and I always get distracted by the woman's journey.
Right.
Yeah, the editor wanted the relationship between Parker and Vivian to be a larger part of the plot.
When's your next one coming out? When's your next book?
My next book is coming out in February of 2026, and it is called Little Miss Petty.
And are you on track, on schedule?
I am 10,000 words behind.
Gotcha.
But I have deadlines for my deadlines. So when I tell you I'm 10,000 words behind, it's not like I'm in danger of not turning in the book on time.
Right.
It's just that I have missed the first 2 of my 4 deadlines.
And before we wrap up with Sally, I want you to hear her explain one of her key organization tools. I don't know about you, but I am always looking for ways to channel my unruly grind into a workable flow. So any of you guys using a bullet journal? This is a new thing to me, and here's a quick summation. What can we learn about the bullet journal? And so I can understand it. Is it a literal journal? Is it a method, or is it a software?
It's a literal journal because Ryder Carroll, Rydercarroll, I believe, he came up with this method because he had ADHD. And for some reason, using analog type things work better for folks with ADHD, which, yes, if I had $1 for every time I have somehow messed up an interview or a place that was supposed to be in my phone calendar, especially when I was in Central Time and forgot that it was going to put everything in Central Time, and then when I came back to Eastern Time, oops. So it is a physical book. Lectern? I just massacred the German. But if you look at Ryder Carroll's website, he will tell you what kind of journal to get. It has dots instead of lines, which... And lots of people, if you look at this website, it's all artistic. They're like, oh, they're making fancy calendars and stuff. Mine is not fancy.
And it's not just for writers, it's for all kinds of disciplines.
It's just, I think he's a business person maybe. Okay. I don't know. It was just a different way of putting things together. I kind of wish I had had it for life, because I cannot tell you how many times I've referred back to, say, the 2020 bullet journal to look for something.
Nice. Or
the 2023 bullet journal. When we were going through, when we were trying to get the Kia Soul fixed, I had all my notes from all my phone conversations in those journals, so I could go back and put together a list of, and on March 3rd, so-and-so said XYZ. I'm like, man, I need this for my life. So that I can go back to other folks and say, well, actually, on May 2nd, 1998, you said... And I wrote it down here.
Nice. Well, thank you again, Sally.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And that was Sally Kilpatrick. So much there to learn from. My big takeaway was about pushing through the fear of finishing. Just recently, I was reminded how that can be a block for me. Here's something I wonder if any of you have felt. While a project is in play, you fall in love with the potential and ignore or delay the work of completing said project. Because that requires decisions, which can be exhausting. You're often negotiating with yourself about what imperfections you're willing to accept. This hit home recently, sorting through a massive dump of stills I took at this year's Americana Fest. As long as I avoided culling and editing, I didn't have to deal with the reality of all the rejects, especially the shots of amazing moments that just didn't work out. And actually, right after I finish mixing this, that task stands before me. So pray for me, y'all, as I try to body surf the waves of my process. Please join us again next time, and feel free to drop a note at my brand new email, grindandflowofficial@gmail.com. See ya.